Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes one. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
So game one, I already made a mistake. I put my touchdown prop bets in hours ago. When you and I started talking before kickoff, I got so excited and I bet him again without even thinking that I already did it.
I
was like, Jalen Hurts, and I was like, and then I was like, wait, I think I already did this. And I scrolled down. I was like, yeah, you already did do this. And I was like, oh, it's okay. That's okay.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
I'd give them no excuses for the mistakes that Lamar and that team made when they played Buffalo in the playoffs last year. But I do think they've done enough to improve the team in the offseason. I think the offense was way better. The defensive line and the offensive line played really well in the back half of the year last year. Almost all of that talent is back. And I think the Ravens are going to be right there.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
To your point, Greg, if anybody else is able to make a dent, it'll have to happen now. ESPN has had about 3% market share. Their goal is to get to 10% by next year. So if they can't make a big push this year and really see a lot of the new features that they put on their apps, a lot of the integrations with ESPN fantasy products, with ESPN, flagship products across the board, if those don't pay off soon this football season, it might be curtains for them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Walsh here with you on SportsGrid for Game Time Decisions live on this Decisions desk. We have a busy Friday night. Plenty of Major League Baseball, plenty of college football to wet your whistle with as well, which does have a ranked team kicking off as we speak. It's Indiana against Indiana State, a closing line of minus 47.5 for the Hoosiers. I want to have my eyes on this game. Can we get the Sycamores over 50 in game? We will be locked in with you tonight. We will be locked in into this college football board as well. A big battle between Houston and Colorado. Deion Sanders in prime time is just right. Deion, though, going to a quarterback that nobody expected to be the guy this year. If it wasn't going to be Caden Salter, that had to mean it was going to be Julian Lewis. It's neither. It's the third stringer. It's the sophomore, redshirt sophomore, Ryan Staub, who stepped in last week against Delaware and was great in his limited action. Apparently, he was so great, Deion is giving him the start tonight against the Cougs. You have an Arizona K-State game with Kansas State having this nightmarish start. Close one in Dublin. It's a loss. That's fine, right? Get back home. All good. Upset alert by North Dakota. But you know what? We were coming from Ireland. We'll steady that ship. Army goes into K-State last week, catching 17.5, win the game outright. This is a Kansas State team who has to win the Big 12 championship to have any chance to make the college football playoff. They started the year as the Big 12 championship favorites. They have certainly lost that status. You also have Nico Iamaleava late night with UCLA laying over 2 touchdowns against New Mexico. We will talk about all of these games with legendary college football head coach Terry Bowden. We will also get some insight from our very own Joe Lisi here on SportsGrid, as well as talking about some of the biggest action in the college football world this week with 3 ranked versus ranked games on the ballot. as well as some other key spots in the SEC and the ACC. That is still all to come here tonight on Game Time Decisions. We will also get you ready for the Sunday slate. Lines continuing to move around the NFL. How about some sevens popping in Arizona, Carolina? Ugliest game on the slate, sure, but that's a noteworthy move. Pittsburgh, Seattle bouncing around. Philadelphia holding firm in the Super Bowl rematch between the Chiefs and the Eagles. We will talk to Brady Cannon in about an hour and get his thoughts on this Sunday slate, perhaps some of the popular contest picks that he's hearing about out there in Las Vegas. We will also deliver you a Friday Five this week with a brand new mystery picker stepping up to the plate, and we will see what we can deliver for you as a team here on this Friday for what should be an excellent Sunday. Got off to a good start on Thursday, laying the 3 with Green Bay personally. The Packers didn't surprise. The Packers delivered with their performance against the Commanders. Both sides of the football, Green Bay was the better team. But because I expected that, it keeps my opinion of them, I think, a bit measured relative to others in the landscape and relative to the sports books, who have pushed Green Bay in some places to co-favorites, if not favorites, in the NFC. And the Green Bay Packers absolutely have what it takes to not just win an NFC North, but have the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. I've seen Matt LaFleur do that before and then proceed to not make it out of the NFC either of those seasons, despite having the league's MVP, Aaron Rodgers, as his quarterback. The win for the Packers is pushing Jordan Love into that MVP conversation more and more. Only Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson's name come before Jordan Love. I will say Jaden Daniels, untouched in the MVP market. That, unexplainable. Jaden Daniels already has being a projected second-place team in his division working against him. Pair that with now 50% of his season. I get it's 2 games, but in one of the games, it was maybe the worst game of his NFL career. Under 5 yards per pass attempt, nothing going on the ground for Jaden Daniels or really any of the Washington run game. I thought maybe the market would move against Jaden a little bit more. Holding firm, we'll see if maybe some Sunday standouts could shift that a little more. We do have the odds now fully available, by the way, for the WNBA playoffs, which will be beginning this weekend on Sunday. Listen, we all get it. I agree with you. You agree with me. Starting your playoffs Sunday, 1 o'clock is insane. It's mad. It's wild. Take the weekend, right? Get this going on a Monday. Get these women a proper spotlight. But those who are all about the W will be out in full force following the action. Yesterday, the results confirmed that Golden State would sit as the 8th seed, pushing Seattle up to the 7, where they will meet the 2 seed Las Vegas Aces, who, in my opinion, have currently the smoothest path to the WNBA Finals. We will see if that holds true. They closed out the regular season on a 16-game winning streak. The Major League Baseball board is bountiful tonight. If you are looking to get involved, we've got the Red Sox and the Yankees going at it. Once again, the Yanks favorites in Boston. Lucas Giolito, a home dog. 2 games starting within 5 minutes. That's Nats Pirates, a round pick. Phillies with Walker Buehler getting the ball. Slight favorites at home against the Royals. The other noteworthy spots tonight involve this NL wildcard race. The Mets were swept by the Philadelphia Phillies. They've lost 6 games in a row and are currently just 1 game in the loss column up on the San Francisco Giants and the Cincinnati Reds. Just one in the loss column. The Mets tonight at home against the Rangers, slight favorites. The Cincinnati Reds on the road against the A's, slight dogs. The Giants at home against the Dodgers are dogs against Yamamoto. If you'll remember, the last time Yamamoto went out there was an out away from a no-hitter, gave up a home run to Jackson Holliday, and the next thing you know, the Dodgers actually lost that baseball game. It'll be fascinating to see what Yamamoto has tonight as the markets around who will be in and who will be out of the NL playoff picture continues to move. We run up against the break, though, but when we come back, we dive into tonight's college football slate with the legend himself, Terry Bowden. What is he seeing around Deion's decision to change quarterbacks? And what is he seeing this weekend with Kirby Smart matching up with Josh Heupel in a massive SEC tilt? That's next.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Donnie, the season is 6 months, 5 if you check out in September. You're going to have a bad month. The Yankees had a horrible month. That is true. But beyond that, their regular season looks okay. They're going to win their 90 games or maybe a little bit more and get to the postseason. What is everybody freaking out about?
Everybody freaks out. It's a Yankee tax and Yankee fan tax as well, where every single season you enter into the equation going like, it's championship or bust.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes one. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I was looking at it through my phone at first. I'm like, why is there such a delay? And why are we getting pitch hitters right away? Oh, the pitcher got thrown out for some reason. Maybe he hurt himself. But no, turning out and seeing a brawl was absolutely hilarious to let that one play out. Just the way it is sometimes in baseball. We don't get a lot of good fights and a lot of good brawls and anger, specifically from two teams that aren't going to the playoffs. So good on them for showing that moxie last time. But it's good to see a little bit of a brawl and a little bit of that passion here.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Game Time Decisions, we're with you here on a Friday night, and I got to tell you, I get excited anytime we get someone to join the show. I'm very appreciative, but I'm also very careful to only toss the word legend around once a week, and that's when head coach Terry Bowden joins us right here on Game Time Decisions. Coach, it's great to see you. We got a couple of good ones here on a Friday. We got a number of great ones on Saturday.
Absolutely. It's going to be a great weekend. We're starting to get into the big conference games where good against good. It makes a big difference how the conference is going to end up, how the college football playoffs are going to end up. Yeah, we still got some best against the rest, but a lot of good conference games coming up that we're going to see tomorrow, especially on Saturday.
Yeah, and we'll ask you about some of those, Coach, before we let you go. But I want to start with a big game tonight between Houston and Colorado. Deion Sanders, we knew there was going to be turnover at the quarterback position with Shedeur going to the NFL. But he did a great job getting Caden Salter out of the portal and a five-star recruit in Julian Lewis. I don't think anybody would have thought going into game number 3, and it's not an injury situation, it's Ryan Staub getting the start here for the Buffaloes. I don't know about that. What do you make about the decision by Deion and this matchup tonight?
I never like it when you play musical quarterbacks. I like a quarterback that you name as your quarterback and he stays your quarterback because you're convincing the players that he's the best. You're making sure you got the best guy in on every play when you got to have a win. And with the way he's played 3 quarterbacks last week, he's gone with the one nobody expected to. And I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to win, but I think it creates doubt. I think there's uncertainty. And I've never seen a lot of success when you start flipping quarterbacks like that. That's the biggest reason that I'm not going with Colorado. Houston, Willie Fritz, we coaches, no, he's been at 6 different universities. He's turned every single one around and won. And he'll have this Houston program turned around. And he's got one quarterback came from Texas A&M. Wigman is pretty dang good. He's going to coach one quarterback, and I think that's probably going to be the difference in the game.
There's another matchup tonight, Coach, involving some Big 12 teams, though not a Big 12 game. That's college football in 2025. Right. It's Arizona and Kansas State. It has been a nightmare start for K-State. They'll try to right the ship here against Arizona. They're slight favorites to do so, Coach.
Yeah, you know what? And they're an enigma. They've been favored all 3 games. They've lost 2, and they should have lost to North Dakota. They scored on the last drive to win 38-35. They were 27-point favorites. They lost to Army 24-21. They were 17.5-point favorites. And if you go back to even Iowa State, which is a good team, they were favored in that game and lost the game. They don't play strong enough on defense. They're a little bit soft, and they've got to get more explosive. If they got a quarterback that I thought he got outplayed by Rocco Becht at Iowa State. He's got the tools. He's got dual threat ability. They've got to let him make big plays. They either got to throw it, give him some deep ball throws, or let him break out and make some runs. They need more explosive plays out of their quarterback. They haven't gotten that. And they've got to be more emotional and more physical on defense. And that's why, you know what? I'm not picking Colorado right now.
Coach, we have some huge games this weekend. And, whenever you get a big game, for us bettors, we want to be involved. I am struggling with Tennessee, Georgia, because Kirby Smart, since Josh Heupel has took over in Knoxville, has really been able to get a grasp of what he's trying to run and limit their scoring. But I don't know if I like this Georgia team as much as, recent iterations. It's a tricky line, bouncing around between 3.5 and 4.5, Coach. What do you expect here in this SEC matchup?
Well, and I don't know yet whether Georgia is as good, but I do think Kirby Smart against Josh Heupel is the difference maker. I mean, Josh Heupel has won 23 out of 24 in Neyland Stadium. That other game was a loss to Georgia. He's lost every game against Kirby Smart by 14 or more points. See, Kirby Smart was a defensive coordinator. And when I was calling plays in the SEC, there were certain coordinators, I don't care if they switched teams, they knew my book. They knew how I call plays. They knew how to defend me. And Kirby Smart understands how to beat a Josh Heupel offense. He plays 2 deep safeties, doesn't give up the deep ball, and he has good enough personnel that he can stop your running game or slow it down with only 6 people in the box. He doesn't have to overload the box to give you man coverage. So that's what makes him so successful. Josh Heupel's got to find a way to beat that, and that's what they've got. Joey Aguilar has got, to me, he doesn't have to necessarily hit the deep ball. He's got to find that intermediate cut, that downfield 20-yard, 18-yard routes, hit a lot of those to move the ball downfield, and then they've got to play good football. They've got to slow down or stop that Georgia running game because that puts the pressure on Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah,
Gunnar Stockton's he's still a rookie in big games. Georgia must have a running attack. We don't know enough yet about them to know whether they do or not, but that's what they want to have. If they can slow down or stop that running attack for Georgia, I don't think Gunnar Stockton's quite ready for the big lights.
A lot of unknowns, Coach. It makes for a fascinating one. I'll stick in the SEC, and we appreciate you making some time on a Friday. But LSU, they were expecting a ranked opponent coming into their stadium in Florida. Instead, they get a Gators team. This could go one of two ways. Either they meet the moment, or they're going to be pretty dejected that they lost at home to South Florida. What are you expecting?
You talk about Miami and South Florida
I'm talking about LSU and Florida.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly. This is one of those games where LSU should win this football game, and I've got them winning this game. Florida their season was almost ruined last week against South Florida. But LSU has got the better football team. But I'm not like others who think that it'll be a blowout. I do think Florida will come in there. They'll play their best football game. This is a much better LSU than last year. I'm not sure Florida is as good as they were last year.
Yeah, again, the early results say no. Maybe the South Florida team is just excellent, Coach. I guess time will tell. Again, legendary head coach Terry Bowden making some time for us on a Friday. Coach, we really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
And again, guys, you can catch him across the SportsGrid network, the Bowden Blitz, as well as college football today, tomorrow on SportsGrid, breaking down all of these big games. Dabo's in a big spot against Georgia Tech. We know that. We mentioned South Florida, their matchup with Miami. Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Notre Dame's season might be on the line in week number 2. We'll talk about tonight's games next on SportsGrid.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
College football can't allow Notre Dame to have the type of, year they have and schedule they have, and honestly put them up against other teams. Because Notre Dame looks like they're going to be a decent football team. They could lose, I think, next week to Texas A&M, Joe. Right. I don't think it's a great football team, but still a ranked team. And then run the table and still be in the playoff and absolutely beat nobody. The worst schedule I may have ever seen in college football is Notre Dame this year.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Quarterback or coach has to answer for it.
Right.
Goff, Campbell. Listen, I'm not firing Dan Campbell already. I might be shipping Goff. I don't know, but I think the Lions. Again, it's week 1. Are we overreacting? I think the panic meter in Detroit is blaring. I think people are wondering when do the Pistons start.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, with you right here on SportsGrid, it is Game Time Decisions. We've got Joe Lisi joining us in about 5 minutes. Can't wait to get his thoughts on not just tonight's games, but tomorrow as well. It's a really, really good Week 3 college football slate. Who knows? Maybe we'll even sneak over to the NFL, see if anything is jumping out to him. Panic meter? Jaden Daniels? Cliff Kingsbury? Trouble at home? We'll find out. We'll talk to Lisi about all of that. I want to talk to you about tonight's game, some best bets, some picks. And I've gone back and forth on this game, but I sent this out just kind of acknowledging that there was a loose 3.5 in the market between this game of Houston and Colorado that is still there. Now, at the time, there were 5.5s in the market, so this was well off. This number is bouncing back down to some flat 4s, even a 4.5, but there is a 3.5 out there, and you always want to get the best of the number, so that's what I went and did. I took the best of that number on Houston at home against Colorado. Some of it is simple, but Colorado going to their third quarterback is something I think the fan base is a little excited about because of how good Ryan Staub looked against Delaware. 7 of 10, 158 yards in just 10 attempts, which is 15.8 yards per pass, multiple touchdowns, didn't turn it over. But it is Delaware. To me, Staub taking over is just more of an indictment on Caden Salter and Julian Lewis. I think there's an argument this is a little reactionary from Deion. Now, maybe Staub's going to stun. Maybe this is going to be the surprise that we didn't see coming, and Deion had himself a sleeper. And that's on the board. Like, I think if you're on Colorado tonight, grab yourself some money line because maybe this kid is absolutely dynamic. I think it's more about taking advantage of Delaware, which doesn't move me a ton, and a defense that I saw against Georgia Tech really struggled to stop the run. Now, that is a great rush attack. We know the double Haynes, right? Jamal Haynes, Haynes King, the quarterback and running back combination for Georgia Tech. But it doesn't stop the fact that they were absolutely ran over in that game. 320 rushing yards for Georgia Tech, just under 7 yards a carry, 3 rushing touchdowns for quarterback Haynes King. Houston this season does not look like Houston of old. This is a grinder of a team. They run the football a lot. They're relying on their defense early. I think that kind of matches up here. This total 45.5 tells the story, but I would have more confidence if one of these QBs is going to turn it loose and have success. That would be Connor Wegman. So I'm going to lay the 3.5 with Houston. The other big matchup tonight between Arizona and K-State is a tricky one because Kansas State has continuously been letting those who have been getting to the window on them down. But I was against K-State last week with Army because it was a good spot to buy low on Army. Army suffered a way worse loss than, in terms of actually losing, because they lost to Tarleton. But it's hard to blow out service academies. You're still supposed to beat Army. To lose at home is a nightmare. I think there are some bright spots, though, for the Wildcats, specifically Avery Johnson. I actually think this kid's been better than I kind of expected him to be. I think he's had to have a huge workload so far for this season. The Dylan Edwards injury has certainly been tough for Kansas State this year. But I like their offense enough to get over a team total of 27.5. I want to remove Noah Fafita from this conversation. I think he's a talented quarterback. I was all in on this kid last year, and his combination with Teteroa McMillan, they did not obviously deliver on that in terms of wins and losses. I still think Fafita's a talented QB, but I've also been left at the altar by him before, where he just does not have enough going. If he's rocking and rolling tonight, great. Gives K-State all the more incentive to meet the number and get through it. If Fafita struggles, I have nothing to do with it, and it cannot impact me. I will say as well, Syracuse-Colgate, not at all, nothing for me, because I want to stay away from these, FCS, schools all over there. Indiana, I was hoping would get an early lead and we get Indiana State catching a ton of points live. The number's actually not moved that much. They're up 14-0. It's only 2 points more now in-game than it was pre-game. Book's obviously aware that Indiana's supposed to be up 14-0 2 drives into this game. Late night, it's Nico and UCLA laying 15.5 to New Mexico. Big-time number. Not a game I'm going to look to bet. I want to keep my eyes, though, on Nico on the ground. 106 rushing yards through 2 games here to start his time as a Bruin. Curious if that keeps up. We will take a quick break, and when we come back, the one and only Joe Lisi joins Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid.
Vegas knows how to celebrate. If you're headed to Vegas for your birthday, plan ahead to get all the birthday freebies the city has to offer. Just by showing your ID, you could get free cash play, scratch cards, drinks, and food at various venues on the Strip. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
College football can't allow Notre Dame to have the type of, year they have and schedule they have, and honestly put them up against other teams. Because Notre Dame looks like they're going to be a decent football team. They could lose, I think, next week to Texas A&M, Joe, who I don't think is a great football team, but still a ranked team, and then run the table and still be in the playoff and absolutely beat nobody. The worst schedule they've ever seen in college football is Notre Dame this year.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Quarterback or coach has to answer for it.
Right.
Goff, Campbell. Listen, I'm not firing Dan Campbell already. I might be shipping Goff. I don't know, but I think the Lions. Again, it's week 1. Are we overreacting? I think the panic meter in Detroit is blaring. I think people are wondering when do the Pistons start.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
Game Time Decisions is live on a Friday night, and I checked the watch. We're not too far away from college football today on SportsGrid being live, which means we should be very grateful for just a little bit of time out of a very busy man's schedule. That is the one and only Joe Lisi. Joe, good to see you as always, friend.
Oh, always a pleasure, Kev. I miss you. I'm going to be with you on Sunday morning, so I can't wait for that. Big week 2 in the NFL as we crushed it in week 1. So,
had a lot of fun.
Slate. Great slate. We got the San Gennaro Feast this weekend in New York City, too.
Yeah, you love going to that city. Let me tell you, man. Let me ask you quickly, Lisi, and I will get to the college, but we had a really big game in the NFL last night between the Packers and the Commanders. And, listen, I saw in some places, I hope you didn't see too much of this. People were saying this is Jaden Daniels' worst game as a pro. Some people were blaming it on Cliff Kingsbury, trouble in the house. I didn't know what you saw here on a pretty rough game on a Thursday for Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, but he's still all right. So he picks up 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in garbage time, got sacked a number of times, and Eckler goes down with the Achilles. I get that. It was just a bad matchup in terms of week number 2. It's not like all of a sudden the wheels are going to start to fall off on Washington. I just don't believe that. Jaden Daniels is a great player. He'll elevate this team, but we talked about it in the preseason as well. Expecting this team to be a 12, 13, or a 14-win football team based solely off of last year where you got the most out of Jaden Daniels, I just don't see it. I think they'll be a 10-win football team, which should be good enough for them to make a wild card.
Maybe. I don't know. It wasn't. Well, listen, I know. I mean, listen, perfect Jaden Daniels case, you immediately just go, yeah, but the stats were good enough, right? The wins and losses, we don't want to.
No, the offensive line broke down. The ends of Parsons and Rashawn Gary got him. There were no secondary options in the first half outside of basically Zach Ertz.
Were you impressed by Green Bay?
Yes and no. Kev, is Jordan, if you're telling me Jordan Love through 2 weeks is going to play like this for a 17-game schedule, then I'm buying back in. And I told you that when we broke down, whether I believe in Jordan Love big picture or not. That passing attack was inconsistent last year. Part of it was the injuries. The other part is how much they relied on Josh Jacobs. And again, in the first 2 weeks of the regular season, Jacobs has had a big part, but he's not
been 80 or 90% like he was down the stretch last year. Does that continue? If it continues, then I think Green Bay could be a 13 or a 14 win football team, but we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, we certainly do. I think for Green Bay, you give them their credit. I think they could be an early regular season juggernaut, but I'm not running to bet this team, especially as these numbers continue to fall. Before you know it, they're going to probably they might spend a little bit of time as Super Bowl favorites, really, with the way that the market is continuing to push this team up the board. Joe, let's talk some college football. We have a little bit of time, so I'll get to tonight's games in our next segment. This weekend, though, there are some really big spots. There is one, though, Lisi, I can't figure out, right? Big games, I want to be involved. Like Georgia, Tennessee, I don't know. It's very difficult for me because I'm a little bit lower on these Bulldogs. I know they've owned Heupel. There's been a lot of money clearly on Tennessee. I know you track this stuff. This was 7. It's got as low as 3.5. What have you made around the noise and the conversation and the market movement here on Georgia, Tennessee?
Well, the numbers suggest, and let me just give you the numbers. Georgia's won 8 straight. They've won the last 4 by an average margin of victory of 20 points per game. The last 4 games in Knoxville, Georgia's won by an average margin of victory of 31.5 points per game. Georgia's 8-2 against the number over the last 10 against Tennessee. So the numbers really favor Georgia. I think you're seeing some buyback on Tennessee from the line opening at 6.5 earlier on Sunday night down to 3.5 because Georgia has some injuries in the secondary. Does that affect them? And an upgrade of Joey Aguilar over Nico. But again, what is the identity of Georgia? I keep going back to last year, Kev. They only averaged 132 rushing yards per game. They only had 1 game where they rushed for over 200. Why is that important? You go back to the 2 years that they won back-to-back national championships. Year number 1, they rushed for over 208 times with Stetson Bennett. Year number 2, when they beat TCU, they had 6 games over 200. They're starting to run the football now. Granted, it was Austin P and Marshall, but they're averaging 214 on the ground. And since 2017, they're 51-0 straight up every time they rush for over 200 against FCS and FBS opponents. I can't go against those numbers. I like Georgia. Do I love it as much as some of the other people? No. It wouldn't shock me if Aguilar's gutty and has this team in the fourth quarter, but I'll still take a shot on the Bulldogs here.
I think it's one of those spots, right, Joe, where it is early season, so, there's a lot that we still need to learn about these teams. Tennessee played Syracuse, but they're not going to be a good team this year. Georgia's played Marshall and Austin P. I mean, obviously, there's not much to glean. Those numbers, and I'm familiar with those numbers because of working with you, right? Every year you make the point about how Georgia steps up and dismantles Tennessee, which has made the number dropping, a little more telling, right? Now, I'm on Georgia's win total under, right? I left them out of my playoff. Like, I'm lower on this Dogs team, so, but I don't know if I like Tennessee. That's the push and pull of this all.
All right. So I'll give you the silver lining if you like Tennessee. Okay? Here we go. So it's the lowest spread in the series dating back to 2015 and 2016. 2015, the Bulldogs laid 2. They lost the ball game outright. 2016, they laid this 3.5. They lost the ball game outright 38-31. So take it for what it's worth. I'm going with Georgia because of the identity. I buy that Georgia's the most complete team from an offense and defensive line perspective. But again, it is the lowest line that we have seen in the series dating back almost 10 years. And that's when the Bulldogs lost back-to-back to the Tennessee Volunteers.
Well, then, Joe, let's stick on this notion quickly. Georgia Tech, Clemson. I mean, this is another one. I'm sure that up there in that beautiful brain, the data bank can tell me all the numbers on the Clemson Tigers. But, I mean, yeah, I do, because Clemson keeps dropping like a rock. This thing might get to 2.5 by the time you're breaking it down tomorrow.
It was 2.5 earlier in the week. They brought it back up to 3.5. So Clemson's won 9 straight. They won the last 4 by an average margin of victory of 31 points per game. They haven't played in Bobby Dodd Stadium, the true stadium for the Yellow Jackets, since 2020. That game, Trevor Lawrence and the Clemson Tigers won 73-7. I don't buy into Clemson being dominant. They're averaging 65 rushing yards per game, only 214 passing yards per game, and Georgia Tech has one of the best third down defenses through 2 weeks, holding opposing offenses to 29% on third down conversions. I'll take a shot. How about this? Georgia Tech outright.
Wow, selling Dabo and the boys. That is going to be an interesting one in the ACC. Let's get Joe's thoughts on Deion in primetime after a quick break. We will also talk to Joe about K-State and Arizona. A quick update, though, before our commercial. Indiana, listen, the result, wins and loss, never in doubt, okay? They're playing Indiana State. It's 21-0. With the minute left in the first quarter. Indiana State ran a fake punt on 4th and 3. I think they lost yards. Give them credit, but also it's ugly. 53.5 live spread, 63.5 total. My only thing is, IU plays next week against Illinois. That is a very, very big game in the Big Ten. You could absolutely argue
no.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Donnie, the season is 6 months, 5 if you check out in September. You're going to have a bad month. The Yankees had a horrible month, that is true. But beyond that, their regular season looks okay. They're going to win their 90 games or maybe a little bit more and get to the postseason. What is everybody freaking out about?
Everybody freaks out. It's a Yankee tax and Yankee fan tax as well, where every single season you enter into the equation going like, it's championship or bust.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes one. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with obviously Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I was looking at through my phone at first. I'm like, why is there such a delay? And why are we getting pitch hitters right away? Oh, the pitcher got thrown out for some reason. Maybe he hurt himself. But no, turning out and seeing a brawl was absolutely hilarious to let that one play out. Just the way it is sometimes in baseball. We don't get a lot of good fights and a lot of good brawls and anger, specifically from two teams that aren't going to the playoffs. So good on them for showing that moxie last time. But it's good to see a little bit of a brawl and a little bit of that passion here.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip, try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
All right, we're live right here on SportsGrid. It is game time decisions. The baseball board starting up some of these games. DeGrom returns to Queens tonight, which should be an emotional one, but also an important one in those wild card races. And then the late night action between the Giants and the Reds will be key. Also, Red Sox, Yankees will have a lot of implications as the seeding is still in play. Both teams, I'm sure, both feel that they could catch Toronto if there's a little bit of give there from the Blue Jays. We are, though, still taking a look at the college football slate. I am sure for many of you where your attention and money will be tonight. It's why we have our guy Joe Lisi with us. You can catch Joe tomorrow morning on College Football Today with Donnie Rightside. I'll be with Joe Sunday morning for Pro Football Today. Can't wait to get into some great games then. But, Joe, we've got an interesting one tonight between Houston and Colorado. Deion Sanders making a quarterback change. He's a dog on the road between 3.5, as high as 5 in some spots. What do you see here?
Well, I think when you look at this game, they go toe-to-toe with a very physical Georgia Tech team. He's not going to go with Caden Salter or Julian Lewis in this matchup, third stringer. He knows something that obviously none of us, know in this matchup. He knows the pulse of his team. We saw 4.5s go down to 3.5, but I really like this Houston team, Kev. I buy into Connor Wegman. I buy into Willie Fritz. I just think they're more physical in the trenches. I think playing at home is a big factor. I don't like the fact that you're going with a third stringer on the road. And not only that, I just think that Connor Wegman could attack that secondary over the top. I'll say this, 45.5 to me is a little light. I think we can get through this total maybe in flying colors. Don't be shocked. I mean, typically a Houston game with Willie Fritz, maybe we trend in the low 30s, high 40s. But I think we can get into the 50s tonight with a little tempo.
Joe, I actually think it's one of those spots. It kind of shows how different these programs are this season. 45.5, Houston, Colorado. It shows times are changing a little bit for both, but maybe tonight that number's a little light. Arizona, K-State, Joe. K-State favorites again. So far, it's not been good. They've yet to cover. They've lost 2 of these games outright. The Dublin disaster that struck Florida State, maybe striking this team. Noah Fafita still trying to do the thing in the desert. What do you see here between Arizona and K-State?
Last year they got absolutely smashed in Manhattan. Ted McMillan and Fafita struggled. Yeah. I believe they scored on the opening drive. And outside of that, I don't believe they scored the rest of the way. I thought Kansas State won by a score like 38-7. It was a dead under, and it was all K-State. Laying 1.5 in this spot, it's tricky. You would think that K-State gets right here, but 54.5 to me, Kev, is the better play. I mean, if K-State has success, and think about this, they've been trending to the under. The game against Army was a methodical game, even though they put up 48 points. Week number 1 against Iowa State was an under. I think we blow through this 54.5. The line suggests K-State. I'm not playing aside, but I like the over 54.5.
Yeah, I'm on the over for the Kansas State team total, least because I've actually kind of been impressed by Avery Johnson. Despite the results, I actually think he's taken a little bit of a step forward this season. One quarterback who you'd be hard-pressed to find people saying they've been impressed or really anything good about is Nico Iamaleava, where his time so far for UCLA, look, it's not even about setting the world on fire. They play Utah in the opener. It's under a touchdown, 43-10. Now, I like that Utah team. I have a Devin Dampier Heisman ticket, but 43-10, that's pretty tough. They go to UNLV. Mind you, a UNLV team that was on the ropes against Idaho State in week number 1. And they're a 2.5-point favorite. They lose that game, and they were getting blown out for a good portion of that game. He's thrown 2 touchdowns. He's thrown 2 interceptions, completing under 65% of his passes. He has been running a lot. What do you think about Nico late night if you're involved against New Mexico?
I'm not involved. Again, this is a game where UCLA should be able to smash them. But again, to your point, they go on the road last week to UNLV. They're laying basically 2.5, 1.5 by game time. They bet down UNLV last week, and they get abused 30-23. They trailed that matchup. I believe it was 20-0 in the first half. They came out flat. Deshaun Foster has done a terrible job in motivating this team. And not only that, that front seven for UCLA has given up 217 rushing yards per game. They should have just ran the football last week against UNLV. They rushed for 5.7 yards per carry. Why they put it into Nico's hands is totally beyond me because UNLV was giving up over 150 rushing yards per game and well over 5 yards per carry. They came out throwing the football all over the place. I just don't understand the offensive philosophy of this staff. They have it all wrong. I can only look to UCLA, but I don't love it.
Over 2 touchdowns. I can't. It would be New Mexico or nothing for me. It's not been great. It's not. And me. What if Joey Aguilar upsets Georgia this weekend, Joe?
Huge. That would be huge. It would open up the door for, I'll tell you what, then you keep an eye out at both of those SEC games at night. I do like one of them a lot. I shouldn't even say a lot. I love one of these night games.
In the SEC?
Yeah, I love it.
Hold on. Wait a minute. Well, is it the one? Is it the obvious one, or is it a different one?
It's not the obvious one. I like that one too.
Yeah, no, I know you like that. Well, here's the interesting thing. It's one of two, and one of them I love, but the other game I'm not involved in. Do you love the Ole Miss Arkansas game?
Well, no, I don't love a side. I love a total. I'll give you the total. Last 10 meetings, they've averaged 72.9 total points per game. Give me over 62.5. I'll just say this. South Carolina, 30-4 all-time against Vandy. They've won 16 straight, the last 4 by an average margin of victory of 18.5 points per game. That's a hornet's nest at night. Smash job, Gamecock.
We'll update you on the live board. Excellent stuff, as always, from Joe Lisi.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes one. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
So game one, I already made a mistake. I put my touchdown prop bets in hours ago. When you and I started talking before kickoff, I got so excited and I bet him again without even thinking that I already did it.
Oh, I
was like, oh yeah, Jalen Hurts. I was like, and then I was like, wait, I think I already did this. And I scrolled down. I was like, yeah, you already did do this. And I was like, oh, that's okay. That's okay.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
I'd give them no excuses for the mistakes that Lamar and that team made when they played Buffalo in the playoffs last year. But I do think they've done enough to improve the team in the offseason. I think the offense was way better. The defensive line and the offensive line played really well in the back half of the year last year. Almost all of that talent is back. And I think the Ravens are going to be right there.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
To your point, Craig, if anybody else is able to make a dent, it'll have to happen now. ESPN has had about 3% market share. Their goal is to get to 10% by next year. So if they can't make a big push this year and really see a lot of the new features that they put on their apps, a lot of the integrations with ESPN fantasy products, with ESPN, flagship products across the board, if those don't pay off soon this football season, it might be curtains for them.
Newswire only on SportsGrid.
Hello. How are you? Are you having a nice night? If your name's Aaron Judge, you are. If you bet Aaron Judge to home run, you are. He's on a heater again. Aaron Judge yesterday, 3 for 4 at the dish, couple of home runs. Batting average dipped under 320 for a second. It's back up to 324. First inning, Gone. He's at 47 now, well clear of 100 RBI. He's getting on his horse. What's Cal Raleigh sitting at? 53? We'll see how long he holds that lead. That Ohtani? Ohtani was on watch? Judge might pass him too? Up to minus 900 to win AL MVP. Cal Raleigh is probably beat. I'm going to be honest with you. Cal Raleigh's probably beat. He had a lot of things working against him, none more so than the fact that he's not having as good of a season as Aaron Judge. But also, Judge now is trending at the right time with a lot of hype around him. When you make history, it is then talked about with more regularity. So for Cal Raleigh, right, he had a big surge. Whoa, most home runs by a catcher, 50 home runs. When's he going to catch, Griffey for the Mariner record? Judge is passing Yogi Berra, then Joe DiMaggio, and it's just nonstop, right? And then before you know it, he's going to be at 50. And then, again, we'll see if Cal Raleigh can hold on to the lead. What's working against Cal Raleigh holding on to the lead is Cal Raleigh is batting under 240. So he's not making contact frequently enough. Cal Raleigh, that's just the reality of it. Like, that's the struggle for Cal Raleigh, is he's batting 214 over the last month. But he's got 8 home runs, but he's only got 21 hits. So it's, again, the MVP numbers starting to trend 1-0 Yankees. It is early 2-0 Texas. The Rangers up on the Mets. They flipped to favorites. Of course, that's how that live number's always going to look. A Mets loss here, man. Again, you're at home against a Texas team playing good ball. Next 3 beyond that are at home against San Diego, who are, of course, a part of this race. And the pressure's starting to mount. It's not great for the Mets. The saving grace for the Mets has been the Giants and Reds pretty frequently tripping over themselves. Both the Giants and the Reds are dogs tonight. So the Mets, I'm not saying that they have breathing room, because they don't. They'll be tied to the loss column with either one of the clubs if those teams win tonight and the Mets lose. But, man, oh, man, those leads, that separation, it evaporates quickly. And it felt like the Mets had flipped their season around when they swept Philadelphia, and that feeling has really, really gone away. Elsewhere, Skubal down early to the Miami Marlins as we see a home run in the first inning, making that a Yurfie. Augustin Ramirez, maybe Sandy Alcantara in line for a win against Detroit. Threatening for the Guardians in the bottom of the first against the White Sox. Nerfy, Baltimore, Toronto were 1 apiece in Philly and Kansas City. We have a 1-0 Pirates lead against the Nats. Looking like it will be and it is a no-runs first inning between the Braves and the Astros. The update on this college football game, ranked action, 24-0 Indiana, 52.5-point favorite, 60.5 is the listed total. Mendoza's only thrown 1 incomplete pass. This team can do what they want. The cool thing about Indiana, and I will tell you this, I have not looked this up, but I have looked at the names and photos, so I feel like I'm correct about this. Fernando Mendoza, the transfer to Indiana, is backed up by his younger brother, Alberto Mendoza, who checked into the back end of that game against Kennesaw and went 3 for 3, 35 yards and a touchdown. I wonder if instead of thinking IU's going to shut up shop, instead they may just go from Mendoza to Mendoza and keep the pedal to the metal here. Like, if the numbers drop too much, I'm not going to do anything until halftime probably, but I think we'll get halftime before we're out of here. We'll keep you updated on the live board. So a reminder, because it's coming up very soon, we're on Houston minus 3.5 against Colorado. Kansas State team total over 27.5 against Arizona. Brady Cannon joins the show to talk some football next.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes what. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
So game one, I already made a mistake. I put my touchdown prop bets in hours ago. When you and I started talking before kickoff, I got so excited and I bet him again without even thinking that I already did it.
I
was like, Jalen Hurts. And I was like, and then I was like, wait, I think I already did this. And I scrolled down. I was like, yeah, you already did do this. And I was like, oh, it's okay. That's okay.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
I give them no excuses for the mistakes that Lamar and that team made when they played Buffalo in the playoffs last year. But I do think they've done enough to improve the team in the offseason. I think the offense was way better. The defensive line and the offensive line played really well in the back half of the year last year. Almost all of that talent is back. And I think the Ravens are going to be right there.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
To your point, Craig, if anybody else is able to make a dent, it'll have to happen now. ESPN has had about 3% market share. Their goal is to get to 10% by next year. So if they can't make a big push this year and really see a lot of the new features that they put on their apps, a lot of the integrations with ESPN fantasy products, with ESPN, flagship products across the board, if those don't pay off soon this football season, it might be curtains for them.
Newswire only on SportsGrid.
With you here on SportsGrid on a Friday night. The big game is in Houston with the Cougs hosting Dion and the Buffs. It's a 3.5-point number, it looks at close. I laid that number with Houston tonight. Colorado shuffling quarterbacks. I don't know if I like it. Houston's been good at running the ball and playing defense early season at home. I'm going to give them a chance here at that 3.5-point spread. A part of me also betting Houston, though, was looking around at the markets, and at one point, ESPN bet had a 3.5 at minus 115, mind you. Other books were sitting 5.5. That's a little rare. That boosts some confidence. We'd love the chance to get the best of the number. And that is, of course, applicable to the NFL, and that is the kind of stuff that we talk about with our guy Brady Cannon, who joins us now here on Game Time Decisions and who tracks these lines constantly and weighs those lines, Brady, against all of these contests. Brady does an excellent job here on SportsGrid breaking down these lines, not just from a day-to-day perspective, but for those who are in the contest. And you were explaining something to me. What are the intricacies of playing in a contest where maybe you like a number on Thursday, but by the time you get to Sunday, you might be getting a bad number in your contest, even if you like it? Can you explain to the people the situation and how you kind of juggle that situation?
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be out on SportsGrid a little bit later this evening, 9 o'clock Pacific, midnight Eastern, I believe the show airs, the Las Vegas Football Contest show. It just went live on YouTube.
Awesome.
Everywhere where you get your podcasts, footballcontestshow.com. But we had our little pregame meeting, if you will, and we landed on the Chicago Bears. They didn't look too bad against the Minnesota Vikings, certainly for 3 out of the 4 quarters. I thought they looked good. And now you've got Ben Johnson going back to his old home to Detroit. He'll be familiar with that team. Detroit did not look good. Looked like they really missed both their defensive and offensive coordinator. Now, you got to give some credit to the Green Bay defense as well. We've seen what they've been able to do through 2 weeks of football. But I didn't know if Detroit was going to be able to pull away and win this game by more than 6 points. But I had to ask my guys. We did the show. We put our picks up. Now, we reserve the right to change it. We don't have to turn in these picks until, Saturday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern time and 4 p.m. Pacific time. But there's been some movement here in the afternoon to the Detroit Lions side. This line was 5.5. I think earlier in the week, it may have been even 4.5. ticked to 5.5. Now at 6.5 with a look that it might get to 7. And in the circa million contest, you have to remember these lines are static. They come out on Wednesday evening in the super contest. They come out on Thursday morning for the circa million, and they're frozen. They don't adjust like a live market. So if you like the Bears now in circa million, you have to take 5.5 when, again, this live line by the time they get to kickoff might be at 7. And I think just purely contest strategy. Maybe you love the Bears, but especially early in the season like this, it's probably not a great idea to take a bad number. You might see a lot of people land on the Lions, and that there's contest theory for you as well, Kevin, because now you might see a lot of people take the Lions because they're a soft number in the contest versus what the live line is. And if you really want to go rogue and go contrarian, maybe the Bears are the play after all. So, there's the balance of trying to figure out what the right thing to do is. But the bottom line is, for the most part, you don't want to take a bad line in a football contest.
Certainly not. I think it could have been 3 years ago. Maybe it was last season, but there was a stretch where it felt like these backup quarterbacks would come in. People would bet a game early, get a good number. Then the quarterback on the other side would go out, get a great number. I believe there was a Vikings-Cowboys game where out of nowhere Cooper Rush was the guy, and people were holding Minnesota at this awesome number. Cooper Rush wins the game. And it's like hold on a second now. What's this? So that is the push and pull of it all. And look, that's why I wanted to talk to Brady about some of the movers out there. There's one today, probably the ugliest game on Sunday, Brady. But there are 7 starting to pop in Arizona, Carolina. Yeah. Now, that might throw off some things for contests. I got to tell you, though, the firmer that 7 gets, the more inclined I am to bet the Panthers. I get it that they didn't look good in week number 1. Sounds like an overreaction to me. Arizona is now, if they get to 7, they may lay double the number Jacksonville laid for at least, most of what that number looked like for Jags Panthers. Are the Cardinals even better than Jacksonville, much less twice as good as Jacksonville?
It's a great question. And I think that comes into play. You have to ask yourself that. Are they better than Jacksonville? Or do you power rate them higher than Jacksonville? Maybe. It's pretty darn close, in my opinion. I'd say the home field advantage is better in Glendale than it is in Jacksonville. Probably not much of a home field advantage in Jacksonville at all, but a pretty decent home field advantage here in Arizona, I feel. But then also you have, just the market adjustment and the perception adjustment, the odds maker, the power rating adjustment, all of that from week 1 to week 2. The line was incorrect, I think, pretty clearly. We were correctly on the Jaguars laying the 3.5 against the Panthers. They won that game handily and probably could have won by more. So, I think the odds makers are probably adjusting down on the Panthers. And I don't know if they're necessarily adjusting up on Arizona. I don't think Arizona looked all that great on the road against the New Orleans Saints. Yes, they covered, but New Orleans is pretty bad and really had a chance to not only tie that game, but at least get inside the numbers. So I was a little bit underwhelmed with the Cardinals. I like what Jacksonville's doing. So again, to answer your question, deserve, to be twice as much. There's a lot of adjustments going on there, but at first glance, you'd have to say no. Now, on the other hand, if we're talking football contests, I think the Arizona Cardinals, and this is one we're likely going to be on, I think they look pretty good for a Survivor contest play.
You will, and again, one of the charms of Survivor is how they can make any favorite feel unsafe. Like I'll tell, I will likely, for Survivor-wise, go Baltimore. They are that is, again, from a Survivor perspective, I'll just pull up like the rough market money line. Minus 700, minus 900, minus 850. And you're like, but are they safe? It's like Flacco's going back to Baltimore.
Well, they're taking some sharp money too, but the wise guys have actually laid the number with Baltimore, moving that from 11.5. They're starting to, you talk about market movement. We're starting to see some 12s pop in that game as well. Now, most of the Survivor contests around the world are different from Circa Survivor, because in Circa, you also have to play independently the games on Thanksgiving and the games on Christmas. And I believe Baltimore is involved in one of those holiday games. So there's a strategy piece where you might want to save them for later on rather than taking what looks like low-hanging fruit here against the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, that is a really good point. Let me ask you about one, Brady, just before this break, because I want to get to Eagles-Chiefs a little bit. What is the contest number sitting at for Niners-Saints? Is that one of those that's a little out of whack, or did that come out late enough with the news?
Right. The news came early enough. The news came before the contest line. So you're looking at 3, I believe.
Okay.
In both. Yeah, it's a flat 3 in favor of San Francisco in both contests out here. So, yeah, oftentimes, like you alluded to earlier, if the injury news or whatever comes out after the fact, then you get a big discrepancy. Not the case in this one.
Right. Like if that was a surprise, and people be sitting there like, well, I'm getting a free 4 points if that was still the 7 that had initially started, which is, again, it's a piece of strategy there. Look, we're going to be running up against a break here, though. Brady's going to come back with us. We're going to get into some of these bigger games. Maybe, anything that's really, really stood out to him, stuff he knows he's absolutely going to be locked in on. We're going to update you on this baseball board as well. Scooball legitimately on upset alert now down in South Beach against the Tigers. Rangers running away early, but still running away early from the New York Mets. And the latest on this college football board, who knows? Maybe this kid in Colorado has something. They're moving the ball early here against Houston. Indiana moving the ball early and often against Indiana State. That's all next. We're with you on a Friday night on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes what. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with obviously Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
So game 1, I already made a mistake. I put my touchdown prop bets in hours ago. When you and I started talking before kickoff, I got so excited and I bet him again without even thinking that I already did it.
Oh, I
was like, Jalen Hurts. I was like, and then I was like, wait, I think I already did this. And I scrolled down. I was like, yeah, you already did do this. And I was like, that's okay. That's okay.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
I give them no excuses for the mistakes that Lamar and that team made when they played Buffalo in the playoffs last year. But I do think they've done enough to improve the team in the offseason. I think the offense was way better. The defensive line and the offensive line played really well in the back half of the year last year. Almost all of that talent is back. And I think the Ravens are going to be right there.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
To your point, Greg, if anybody else is able to make a dent, it'll have to happen now. ESPN has had about 3% market share. Their goal is to get to 10% by next year. So if they can't make a big push this year and really see a lot of the new features that they put on their apps, a lot of the integrations with ESPN fantasy products, with ESPN, flagship products across the board, if those don't pay off soon this football season, it might be curtains for them.
Newswire only on SportsGrid.
The tricky thing about saying things and asking for things is sometimes they come. I was like, man, I'd love to get over 56.5 with Indiana State. 59.5. Now what, tough guy? It's 38-0 Indiana. I don't know. I'm busy. I'm hosting. I don't have time for that game. Kevin Walsh with Brady.
Good excuse.
Yeah, exactly. Look, we're following everything going on the live board, but we're also looking to get you ready for this weekend here on Game Time Decisions. And look, Brady, the reality is, I don't know if it'll be a popular contest play, but it's going to be the most bet on game. It's the Chiefs and the Eagles. And it's a Super Bowl rematch with added stakes because Kansas City, if they lose, are 0-2 for the first time in the Mahomes era, and they're favored to lose. Slight, but still the case. As the week has gone on, how has your thoughts around this game developed?
Well, it's really interesting, kind of all over the place. When I do my exercise on Tuesday and make my own numbers, I made the Chiefs a 3-point favorite. I went to the live market and I went, holy cow, I'm really off on this one. They're a 1-point dog. And then we had our discussion with our football contest show, and these guys were kind of thinking Eagles. And I was like, boy, it's really hard to not take Patrick Mahomes at home in their home opener as an underdog. I know it's only 1 point, but again, Mahomes as an underdog at home is almost unheard of. And losing in that situation, I don't know if it's ever happened before. And granted, the Chiefs did not look good in week one. It looks like maybe the run is finally over. Maybe the Chargers are going to win that division. Maybe it's Denver. Who knows? Maybe it's the Raiders. The whole division is undefeated except for guess who? And they look vulnerable. They look more vulnerable this year than I think they have in a long time. The offensive line has issues. Who's going to run the ball? You got Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco, and it doesn't seem like they can figure out, who needs to be the lead back spark that comes in off the bench. Xavier Worthy's banged up. Travis Kelce's another year older. Philadelphia, I see some issues on that side as well, especially defensively. They do get Carter back in the lineup. Jalen Hurts looked outstanding in week one, absolutely capable of the leadership and what it takes to run that. But again, the defense didn't look all that great against the Dallas Cowboys. But I think there are so many reasons that they look a lot better than the Kansas City Chiefs. I could only go that direction. And then, the more we thought about it, I'm like, guys, let's not mess with this game. This is really difficult. Do I want to go against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs? No. Do I feel like the Eagles are the better team this year in 2025? Yes. And for those reasons, I'll pass and I'll watch this one and see what happens.
Yeah, it's one of these spots where there are elements that I think line up well for Philadelphia, but it's a Super Bowl, so it's not hard to forget. And as somebody who was on the Eagles in the Super Bowl and is an Eagle fan, and those two things are not connected, but they are both true, I remember everybody picking Kansas City, and I'm watching all of the same people now go, oh, Philly's better. And it's not necessarily about fading the public, but sports are also a game of emotion. And I still think Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. I think that's still his title, and we can reassess that, at the end of his season. Well, this is an emotional spot. He has a lot on the line. That's not overselling it. Patrick Mahomes got destroyed in the Super Bowl, embarrassed. Go find that clip of him get the strip sack fumble when then Jalen Carter also clubbed him in the helmet. You can go and find. He got beat up and abused, and then lost in week number one. So I'm not saying the Eagles aren't fired up for the game. I'm saying so is Kansas City. So it's a really tricky spot where, I said this to someone today, Brady. I may have to really decide if I like Philly, why, how, and let that translate maybe into a props or team total market here really for this game.
Yeah, and you got to remember too, you don't have to bet it. I mean, if you don't, and that's what we ultimately said, boy, I don't know which direction to go here. The other thing, doesn't it always seem like that, the Buffalo Bills do this? Patrick Mahomes did it to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. If you lose to that team in the playoffs, the Super Bowl in this case, whatever, doesn't it seem like you get revenge in the regular season? And that would equate to the Kansas City Chiefs getting their revenge here and beating Philadelphia, after Philadelphia beat them in the Super Bowl last year. You talk about Patrick Mahomes being the best quarterback in the league. He probably still has that title. I would say Andy Reid doesn't, has he lost the title of best coach in the league? I doubt it. And I know Sirianni and Hurts are quite the tandem on the other side. And again, probably the better roster overall, but I think really difficult to go against Kansas City here. Again, ended up being a stay away for me altogether. Contest, bet, what have you. I'm going to sit back and watch. And actually, Kevin, having been here in Las Vegas for a number of years and seeing my 49ers lose to the Chiefs a couple of times, I'll be rooting hard for Philadelphia to win the game, but probably won't have any money involved.
Oh, it's so funny, man, because my Eagles lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl the year before it happened to your Niners.
Right.
And it's probably softened because Philly obviously gets them back this past season. But I think I get a chill down my spine more when I think about the Niners Super Bowl against KC than the one the Eagles lost. Because the Niners were so much better than them.
Should have won them both.
You knew you were going to get a double-digit lead because Kyle Shanahan getting a double-digit lead in the Super Bowl is automatic. Apparently, though, that was him losing that
so
football
was the
game.
Fourth quarter collapse, right?
Oh, Brady, it's not your fault, but we were having a great time, and now, what a terrible, terrible thing that was. I remember we broke that game down. I think you were on with me. I felt like every day that week we were just talking about how the money line was moving because it was such a tight line.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, son of a gun. That's all right. Hey, the Eagles got it right last year. I'll tell you this too, Brady, before we let you go. I'm going to end up betting Mac Jones. I don't know about you. I am going to end up betting Mac Jones.
I agree with you. I think the 49ers way to win that game, and I don't mind laying the 3 points.
All right, Brady, appreciate it as always. We get you the Friday 5 and the final updates after this commercial break. It's Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes one. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with obviously Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
So game one, I already made a mistake. I put my touchdown prop bets in hours ago. When you and I started talking before kickoff, I got so excited and I bet him again without even thinking that I already did it.
Oh, I
was like, oh yeah, Jalen Hurts, I was like, and then I was like, wait, I think I already did this. And I scrolled down. I was like, yeah, you already did do this. And I was like, oh, it's okay, that's okay.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
I'd give them no excuses for the mistakes that Lamar and that team made when they played Buffalo in the playoffs last year. But I do think they've done enough to improve the team in the offseason. I think the offense was way better. The defensive line and the offensive line played really well in the back half of the year last year. Almost all of that talent is back. And I think the Ravens are going to be right there.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
To your point, Greg, if anybody else is able to make a dent, it'll have to happen now. ESPN has had about 3% market share. Their goal is to get to 10% by next year. So if they can't make a big push this year and really see a lot of the new features that they put on their apps, a lot of the integrations with ESPN fantasy products, with ESPN, flagship products across the board, if those don't pay off soon this football season, it might be curtains for them.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, Game Time Decisions. We're closing it out on a Friday. Appreciate everybody who has joined us throughout the week, everybody behind the scenes helping us get the job done. We have a lot to get to here. I will do a little plug. Again, a SportsGrid podcast, The Kevin Walsh Show. That is out and available. A weekend preview, Thursday night recap, and the full college football card. That's where we do everything. I do always want to bring you at least the big games here on Game Time Decisions. The irony in that is, it's not like I'm hiding it on the podcast. I didn't pick a Georgia-Tennessee bet. I'm going to look to try and bet that game live. But at the end of the day, nothing stood out to me. I didn't have a great read in that game, and I just wasn't going to force one, not early season. I do have a pick in the other four. We'll go through them quickly. Give me Cade Klubnik over 20.5 rushing yards in Clemson, Georgia Tech. Klubnik did actually, I believe, is in a negative rushing yard spot through 2 games. Same thing happened last year. And then he had at least 21 in the next 11 games that he played that season. In ACC play, Klubnik will start to use his legs against a Tech team that saw Caden Salter run for over 40 yards in that opener against Colorado. A big game certainly to be played between Miami and South Florida. I'm going to take the 17.5 with South Florida. I know this is the same number that the Gators were laying. I think Florida's good. I don't think Miami is actually the 5th best team in the country, so I'm fine with that spread math. I think the South Florida defense has really proven itself through 2 weeks, and Byron Brown is still a tough guy to tackle. Miami can win. I expect Miami to win. 17.5 is a ton of points against a team that has started this season 2-0 with a couple of ranked wins, impressive in both. I'll let Mario Cristobal prove to me he's prepared to go out there and hang it on what is right now ranked as one of the 20 best teams in college football. Favorite prop this weekend is in LSU, Florida. Give me DJ Lagway over 208.5 passing yards. Lagway is a chunk play machine in his career, averages nearly 15 yards per completion. Cade Klubnik did not have a great game in terms of completion percentage against LSU, but was picking up chunk plays. Lagway in his career, when he throws at least 25 times, I think he throws like 30 times against LSU, if not more. But when he throws at least 25, he's never missed 220. So I think 208.5 is light. Lastly, Notre Dame A&M. Notre Dame laying the 6.5. Marcus Freeman off a bye has an argument for right now the best coach in football, college and pro. Not only do they win and cover, they dominate. The score over the last 2 years, 4 total games off by, I believe, is 214-24 Notre Dame. Covers in the bowl games, covers to open seasons outside of last week, but now to get this refresher, I think it's a great Notre Dame spot. What about tonight's college football board? I am laying it. We're in game with Houston, 3.5. How about Sam's going to go to the over in late night UCLA, New Mexico? That number 53.5. Casino Chris sneaks in. Why not? He actually joined me on the podcast, too. Had some good picks, had some good stuff there. Goes for Bryce Terang for 2+ hit run RBI at -120. The three of us, joined by AJ and the Mystery Man, give you a Friday 5. Give me the Saquon Barkley over rushing yards that we talked about during target player props in the Eagles-Chiefs game. Chris, going to go to a 2-leg touchdown parlay of Jahmyr Gibbs and CeeDee Lamb. Gibbs against the Chicago Bears. CeeDee Lamb against the New York Giants. Yarnell, I like what he's bringing to the table here. Going to lay that 3 with Mac Jones and the 49ers on the road against the New Orleans Saints. AJ is going to take the 3.5 with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I am waiting to see if that line ticks down to a flat 3. I do have some interest in Cincinnati at that price. Our mystery man, it is different. It's different than last week. Different person. Same mystery. Rams, Titans over the 41.5. That's a sneaky sizzle. I've been interested in Tennessee throughout the week. We'll see what we decide to do when that game goes off for the board. I will see you Sunday morning for Pro Football Today with Joe Lisi. Again, check out the Kevin Walsh Show, a SportsGrid podcast for the full college football card. In-game live is next. Oh, and give you the team total over for Kansas State against Arizona on the road in the desert, 27.5. Root in the Cougs, lay the 3 and a hook. It's been a pleasure. In-game live is next.
Guess what, golfers? Vegas isn't just casinos and pool